Extinction Rebellion is an absolute phenomenon.
Welcome to the rebellion!
It's used the traditions of peaceful protest, peaceful direct action, and peaceful disobedience to try and force the climate crisis up the political agenda.
They've had 30 years to get this right, and they haven't.
But I want to talk to them now. It's winding down this phase about what they've achieved, what the plan now is, and if we can save humanity, and if it's capitalism itself that we need to be fighting. So I'm Extinction Rebellion HQ. I'm going to bring my bike in, but I'm sure they won't mind. It's kind of goes with the whole vibe, really, doesn't it? As it says here, reduce electricity and get fitter too. So, saving the planet. Great to see you. How are you? Great, well done. This is great.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
Good, good.
So, tell me about yourself, Roger. What do you do here?
What do? Well, do you want my posh title? It's Action Strategy Coordinator.
Great. So what does that mean?
Extraordinaire, National Division.
I
How about
would
that?
demand extraordinaire on the end of that. So what does that mean in practice?
What does that mean in practice is 2 or 3 of us get together and design how to force the government into some sort of sanity. We basically designed that whole shaboodle that's happened in the last 10 days.
So what were the
very
concrete
pleased.
bits you did then?
There's 5 elements. Do you want me to get technical?
Yeah.
Okay, you need lots of people. You've got to go to the capital city.
Join the rebellion, Extinction Rebellion.
Because that's where all the bad guys are, right? You know, elites, You know about that, don't you? Don't need to
I've
tell
had
you
one or
about
two
them.
things to say about that.
And then you've got to break the law.
Out the way!
No point like faffing around, sending in, you know, letters and banners and all that stuff. You've got to break the law. It's got to be non-violent, right? As soon as it gets tricky, it's game over. Just get all lots of angry white men. You know, it's not good. Hang on a minute. So it's been a long day.
I know, it's been a long few weeks, hasn't it?
Oh yeah. This is really important, right? They're all important. But the last one has to go on day after day.
Doesn't it mean more of a full frontal assault on capitalism though?
Absolutely.
So what does that mean in practice? Because doesn't there need to be more actions, for example, on the fossil fuel companies, on the banks, which, let's be honest, they're funding a lot of the projects which are destroying the planet?
Yeah, well, arguably yes, but probably not, is my position on that. When you're trying to structurally change society, you need to create like what you might call a national debate about where the nation is going. And I know that sounds a little bit dodgy, but that's basically how societies change. It's fundamentally saying, guys, what's going on? You know, saying to the left, what you know, you believe in justice, you believe in equality, so why are you just like putting climate change down there, you know, at the bottom of your leaflets, you know, saying to the right-wing people, you know, you're supposed to believe in legacy, family, tradition, duty, what the fuck, you know, like you're destroying the nation. So it's like, it's a universalist sort of message that something big has to happen, which isn't to say that people shouldn't be doing things with the banks and all that sort of thing, you know, it's cool, but it's like a step change in ambition, and that's not because we're like really ambitious, it's just we've got 10 years to do this, right? We've got to reduce carbon emissions by 50% in 10 years. And you know, and everyone on the left knows, that you're not going to be able to do that without like a big political revolution.
If you're economically on the right, you believe in the market. And I don't think there is a market-based solution to this crisis. I think you have to have a break with market economics.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's like loads of people need to stop being in their little, you know, silo corner and realise this is happening. Because I know it's a dodgy analogy, but it is a wartime scenario. And that's how you change economies really quick. And that's not because we're into wartime economies necessarily. It's because that's the only way you're going to do it in 10 years. I think the way to deal with the right is to say, yeah, you want all this, you know, free market, and the fastest way you're going to destroy the free market is not doing nothing on climate change.
So you're quite critical of traditional left approaches to transforming society. So, you know, you think that there needs to be a revolution, a break with the system, that you want us to look at it in a different way. So what's your kind of criticism of the left? Where's it kind of gone wrong?
Let me say straight away, right, I'm not being like nasty when I say this.
No, that's
Do you know what I mean? I mean, I've been on the left all my life, and I think it's fantastic, you know, the whole socialist project, amazing, you know, it's brought loads of people out of poverty, brilliant, okay? However, It's like there's a certain dishonesty on the left, I think, in terms of the science. The left is going to say, yeah, we can put all this money into, you know, all these industries and everything will be fine and we can still basically be screwing nature. Well, screwing nature is arguably bad anyway, so that's a problem with the left. But aside from that, just from a sort of physical design point of view, if you don't get on with it, it's a lot more, you're going to have to be honest with the public and say, we are going to have like a reduction in living standards and we're going to have to deal with that.
I mean, I suppose the danger there is, if something, because radical action is, drastic radical action is required, that to build consent for that amongst the wider population, if it's all framed in terms of sacrifice and pain, I mean, shouldn't we be focusing on actually, we will improve the quality of life rather than making it all about pain and sacrifice?
Well, I say something a bit weird. No, you should make it about pain and sacrifice. Because the neoliberal frame that's colonised the left can't conceive of life in anything other than cost-benefit materialistic terms. And what Extinction Rebellion has shown, and you can see it in the mid-20th century left tradition, is people are mobilised by sacrifice and pain, tradition and duty.
Not as a goal, though.
No, not necessarily, but sometimes as well as a goal.
No, but that's a means. So during the war, for example, you'd get sacrifice and pain being a virtue, but with the end goal of being liberated from it.
So the end goal is human survival. So I think, like, you know, this is a controversial thesis. You know, I accept that. When society is going to crisis, people adopt a virtue ethics orientation, and obviously there's loads of cultural manifestations of that. You know, they decide to do things because it's the right thing to do. Like the people on the street this week, they're not primarily interested in whether we're going to win or not on this. What they're primarily orientated towards is, I'm not standing by anymore. You know, it's just so fucked, I'm going to have to do something because I can't live with myself.
This phase is winding down, so what comes next?
We're going to keep on coming because, you know, it's beyond bad, isn't it?
It is pretty bad, yeah.
No, it's beyond bad.
Sorry.
Let me correct you.
It's beyond
bad. It's off the fucking scale bad, right? The oxygen's going to melt. You know, I'm a farmer, 20 years, done 30 seasons. I can tell you, when the food runs out, people starve, and it's not pretty.
No.
So people need to get with the programme on it. You know, it's a massive, out of your head fucking crisis.
Let's go on the office tour.
Let's go on the office tour. Yeah, I'm Farhana Yamin. I'm a mum of 4 and I'm an international climate change lawyer, and I've been active in the climate change negotiations working with small island governments and least developed countries. And my role here in Extinction Rebellion is I am coordinator of the political strategy team.
The traditional approach to often protest is to just go on a march. You go from A to B with some placards and then go home. Why isn't that enough?
We've done a lot of that and it has brought progress, but not enough. And I think that's what's been missing, is that extra commitment and determination to really make the urgency felt. Politicians say a few nice things, they announce a few policy measures, and then they go home. And what we need is a complete transformation of our economy.
So what is the power of peaceful civil disobedience?
It's disruption. It's like ringing the fire alarm really loudly in everywhere so that everyone can hear. But we don't say that, put out the fire alarm. We say, let's put out the fire. We reach for safety. So I think civil disobedience is a bit like that. It's the fire alarm that's trying to wake us up. And it is a bit irritating. It causes the disruption. It's very annoying. But it's to save us all from a much bigger threat.
You yourself were arrested, is that right?
I was, yeah.
Tell me about it. You're a lawyer. You must have been like, what? I'm getting arrested.
Yeah, I was arrested outside Shell, and I had superglued myself to the building.
Were you scared?
I wasn't, actually. I wasn't scared at all, because I think, for me, I'm in a privileged position. I feel like, it was a peaceful protest. There were lots of observers. There were lots of cameras around, actually. I felt like it was an okay thing to do. But the big oil companies in particular have known about the threat that climate change would have for around 40 years. And they've kind of essentially, waged a campaign of covert lobbying and disinformation, and sent the publics in the wrong direction and deliberately confused the science. People need to understand that is causing, mass extinction.
One of the criticisms that has come up about arrests, for example, is that it takes up a lot of time and resources for any protest movement. What do you say to that? Because there's so many, well over 1,000 people have now been arrested.
And I guess the answer is yes, you are tying up the one part of the system, but you're doing it so another one can step in and do its job. You know, that the other parts of the system weren't doing their job. I don't want to be arrested continuously, but I will be. I'm committed to doing that because that's frankly, it's sad to say, it's a more useful use of my time than writing another report which would be ignored, or doing another lecture, or having another briefing to politicians who then just, do a little bit and kick the ball down the road.
Yeah, good to see you, buddy. How you doing?
Good.
So, obviously, I'm going to ask you inevitably about that interview.
You're just you're a load of incompetent, middle-class, self-indulgent people who want to tell us how to live our lives. That's what you are, isn't it?
How do you sum up his attitude?
Yeah, well, I was expecting to go. I didn't know what Adam Bolton was like. I just expected to talk to a journalist, basically. I expected to talk to someone who wanted to kind of hear the facts about what was happening and understand, propose a counter view, but also to hear where we're coming from. And that's just not what we got. And that's the way that the corporate media goes. That's how we can see Sky News turning into a Fox News.
It was like Fox News.
It was like Fox News if we don't take a stand on it.
What do you think about this? I've got a headline from a much beloved national newspaper.
Oh yeah.
The headline is Extinction Rebellion protests have worked in capitals as MPs succumb to calls for change. Guess the newspaper. It's the Daily Express.
Daily Express, that's great. We're talking about going beyond party politics. This is part of the Citizens' Assembly as well. We're not talking about Conservatives, Labour or whatever anymore. We're saying this is an issue for everyone in Britain. It's a national, we have a national duty to protect life on this planet and also the people here.
We may be terrified of the truth, but we have to accept it, because only when we can accept it will we have the kind of courage and the energy we need to actually do something about it.
What Extinction Rebellion has pulled together with the feelings of non-violence, it's capitalism versus the planet.
It is capitalism versus the planet.
We've got one world and we are destroying ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the root of it, it's capital, it's money. They have to go the whole hog. We cannot just be cosmetic.
We're just trying to get a very basic message across, which is tell the truth. I'm the Tell the Truth Brigade, which is cool. The science is there. We have great brains, environmental scientists. Their life's work is falling on deaf ears. It's no good waiting 11 years and seeing the tsunamis coming down the Thames or whatever is coming for us.
We all sit at home and we think, this could be better. Wish they wouldn't do that. But now I suppose there's a different force, isn't it?
For the first time in a week and a half, the Extinction Rebellion roadblock, which stopped all traffic, has gone. But Extinction Rebellion has made a massive impact. They set out to drive the climate crisis to the top of the agenda. They've achieved just that. For me, what has to be emphasised is the issue is capitalism. It is a system which is rapacious, which exploits both human beings and nature, where you have a constant attempt to amass wealth for a tiny elite, no matter what the cost for the world as a whole. Civil disobedience works, direct action works. Other movements should learn from that and build on it and show that if you take to the streets and use peaceful disobedience, then the powerful and the media are forced to listen.